Okay,
And
and
I'll
Mark,
say,
go ahead.
okay, this meeting's being recorded. Now, it says recording on my screen.
Okay, well, that's good. So, hello, everyone. I'm Dan Winter, fractalfield.com, fractalu.com, and I'm joined today by the amazing Mark Rohrbaugh, who together we have cooked up this amazing grand unified theory, fractalgut.com, which we call Golden Toe, Golden Theory of Everything. It's very exciting, and you are going to get an armchair tour, and this is cool. Mark, maybe you want to tell them a little bit about you. Just go ahead, like engineering background and
Yeah, well, I've been a chip designer all my career. I started out in college working for Digital Equipment Corporation, and I've worked for Texas Instruments, SGS Thompson, which was ST Microelectronics, Motorola, NXP, and a couple other all mainstream commercial semiconductor, so
Mark is
my pre so that's all I can talk about right now.
Mark is one of the
So
world's leading chip designers, especially as it has to do with how the electrical fields integrate in a very high-end integrated circuit, and how electric fields integrate is the physics, and that is Mark's PhD in electrical engineering, actually, is the physics of how the electric fields compress together. And this is literally a large integrated circuit, and we have put it together. We're excited. Apparently, Grok 4, the world's leading AI intelligence in physics, has rated our unified field theory is that 98 out of 100 for completeness. Is that right, Mark?
yeah, that's right. And like I was telling you before we got on, I was surprised. Well, not surprised, but when Grok came out and announced how good it is, I watched Elon and his engineering team, software team, multiple times explain how good their software was. Well, that's when I started using Grok. I was using Grok 3 July 4th and making major progress. Well, Grok 4 came out, right after Liz and I found that little error I made in my equations. That's why we're having all the breakthroughs. And I'm like, okay, I'll use Grok to verify my work. And it's good. It's really good. Now, when they say it's the best out there, I put it to the test and it is good. I'm really good at math and you can see on my blog I actually defeated it a couple of times. That's what I call it, defeat it. Because it's now you got to understand the beauty of the Grok 4. Elon and his team spent massive amount of time and energy to give us a perfectly trained mainstream tool that can allow us to evaluate real practical things. And it'll tell you if it doesn't match their theory. Okay.
So,
So I might be going too far. My only sole purpose was to get credit, to get Grok to tell me, yes, Mark, you solved the proton radius puzzle. And no matter how hard I tried, Grok said, good, but no dice. So I started Grok over and over, refresh sessions, fresh approaches. And the more I tried to get credit for that one problem, because I didn't want to steal in the Sims work or yours, you guys already got everything covered. I want one little piece. Grok started saying, well, this is a gut. Then it says it's a super gut when I put your stuff in. Because I originally, if you noticed, as I'm sending you information, you kept on saying, well, Mark, I wish you'd put uh, golden mean slash Planck fire for my main thing, not that golden mean info website. Well, I'm letting Grok do everything. I don't want my biases in. I don't want your biases in. So I tried to tell you, Dan, that's Grok. We'll update all that stuff later. That's why it had the speed of light. Grok thinks we handle 2x speed of light, no problem. So here's what I found out. Grok says you got a super gut, which means gravity is emergent. So I'm like, well, that's what Dan talks about. I told Liz, I said, now look, and Liz says, because she's using Grok too, she says, Grok is starting to sound like Dan. I goes, yeah, because I linked in his website. So I'm going to not link his website in, and then we're going to analyze this stuff. Soon as you put in the golden mean with the key axioms, Grok unifies physics, okay? And he knows it's unified. Because of that, Grok says it gives it such good scores because you actually have to run simulations. You have to tell Grok to do it. Grok won't do this stuff unless you tell it. So it'll run simulations to see how well your model correlates to the mainstream models and even all of them. So when I started getting pretty decent scores, that's when I started sending you the stuff. When we were 10 points above the mainstream, holy crap, when I started redeveloping it from ground zero, restarting Grok, making sure I don't corrupt it with Harmonic stuff with yours, using strict axiom mathematical principles, and I know how to do that. That's when we went through the roof. 90, 98, 60 out of 60, sorry for the emphasis, of the tests they run, of the unsolved problems or whatever, not only do we solve the solved problems, we solve the unsolved problems. And you know, that's my specialty. Okay.
Yeah, and this is where
So,
we
so I'll
should
let you talk for a little bit
well,
here.
just so that we could do a little background for people. So as you know that I and maybe I'll just share this. This is the intro. So we're going to be sharing the intro now from the Fractal GUT website. Uh, it's called Fractal GUT, Fractal Grand Unified Theory, also called Golden Toe, a golden theory of everything. And so a little background. Um, Everyone kind of knows for years I had taken Planck and multiplied by whole number exponents of golden ratio called fractality perfected at planckfire.com. So you take that simple number, Planck, the musical key signature of every wave in physics, and do multiples, whole number multiples of golden ratio, perfect fractality, you get 200 or more profound physical variables, radii of hydrogen, planetary orbitals, like exact wavelengths of photosynthesis. I mean, it's just like bang on. So all those things are caused by phase conjugate charge collapse, which is what golden ratio times Planck is. And earlier we had published equations showing that golden ratio solves the problem of maximum constructive wave interference and therefore solves the problem of compression. And Einstein was also clear that infinite non-destructive compression would be a solution, but of course didn't know what a fractal field was. So anyway, so I had shown that if you model golden ratio times Planck as the generalized wave solution to charge collapse, physics has already agreed that charge collapse is a co-defining variable of both the nature of consciousness and the nature of gravity. That charge collapse either is caused by or is the cause of both consciousness and gravity. So that was in the literature, and we've been playing with that for years. And Mark knew that I was passionate. But Mark had his own background, which was Mark's passion at that time was actually the diameter of the proton, if I remember correctly. And
Yeah, the
the
radius,
radius,
yeah.
and Mark then showed, and he needs to explain this much better than me, that simple, pure wave mechanics, if you model charge as a superfluid rotating in a vortex, basically, and then you enter the variables of the density, et cetera, that charge rotating, that the radius of the proton pops out of the equation. A new way to show how the proton was created. This was all Mark's work. It's amazing. He's going to go into
Right.
that. But then so then Mark says, oh, he scratched his head. So now, then he got more interested in my work at that point, a little bit, the Planck work. And he said, oh, what if we check to see if those balloons around the diameter of the proton were also fundamental constants? And that's when the whole world collapsed in on Mark. He had some.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
So that's a little background. So, and then I'm going to go into a bit more about the papers we published on golden ratios solving the generalized problem of constructive wave interference. But Mark, you want
Yes.
to say a bit more first. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you to please continue with what you're saying because the foundation is your papers. Okay.
Yeah,
That is the only reason why I did this work. When I took your paper, like I was telling you, 7, 10 years ago, Liz and I printed out your paper as I hand went over and said, Dan's got the implosion stuff, wave equation. Why isn't anybody building the quantum theory for him?
exactly.
And I know I can do it. I know I can do it. I'm sitting there 7, 10 years ago, and like I said, I got this invite can I use the names?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yes.
So a young gentleman I met at Contact in the Desert, Andrew Murray, knows Elizabeth Rauscher, and
Whom I've been
Liz and
working
I,
with for many years at that point
yeah,
as well.
and Liz and I met all these people. So we got Elizabeth Rauscher lived near Liz and I, 15 minutes away. So we were so fortunate. Liz and I'd go visit Dr. Rauscher. It was such a joy. She was so fun. And so we'd go visit and talk. And her friend Mark was there too. His name is Mark. And we had great conversations. So whenever Andrew told me, he says, "Hey, Mark, I set up Nassim, a meeting with Nassim. He's finally going to go meet up with Elizabeth again. You're invited." Liz and I got invited, and Nassim took us to dinner and paid for everything. It was great. Now, I love those people. I tell you, I went there looking up to them with those papers, wondering why aren't you, are you looking at Dan's stuff? I don't know how I said it. So I'm looking at Dan's stuff here, and you got the letter. I sent you the letter. And lack of enthusiasm in their stuff. So, I'm a mainstream guy. My enthusiasm didn't diminish, but I don't want to look like a fool on the world stage. So I took my time. So sorry it took me so long.
So, but it's a couple of points to make is I did
Good.
not have the capability to develop this into the generalized wave mechanics. Mark is way ahead of me in that regard. So I'm totally grateful to Mark. And I just want to say that the papers that Mark is referring to here is where we actually showed that golden ratio was the generalized solution to constructive wave interference and constructive compression. I knew even at that time,
Yeah. So Dan,
this,
I want you to take over. I just want to mute here one thing. The reason why I can proceed with confidence with this quantum theory is that how I make a living is I design integrated circuits that go into Apple phones. I can talk about that now because it's been enough years. The quality that Apple requires to get a chip into this is incredible. And when I was doing it, right before I was working with Apple, I got two mixed mode chips. I'm an analog mixed mode designer. Two chips in the production at NXP. On the first pass, they went into production, two in a row. Millions of things have to be right. Material science, testing, because I'm the full flow engineer. I don't just design my shit and let it go. I work with testing. A customer say, "Hey, Mark, we got a problem with your part." I decapsulate it. I go to the lab. I find out what's wrong. That's historically. They don't do that now. I would if I had to. The confidence I developed over a 40-year career of understanding solid state and being able to make these things that work. I demand perfection in these things. So
and
that is the math that I do. And one more thing, you know how I told you at the last meeting, I only work on things that give me the exact solution. And that's why I panicked when I had the theory of the constants yesterday. All of them, but they're not working out because we'll get into that. Minor little errors. Once you fix the errors, boom, 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 they're coming out. But why isn't gravity coming out? Why isn't the fine structure coming out? We'll get into that because of what you're going to talk about now. The gravity emergent, the phi scales,
yeah.
you got to have for your galaxy rotation problem. Your G ain't the same out there as it is down here. So that's where we're going. And
And
that's what I'm saying. I almost canceled yesterday. Whenever my stuff didn't match up to the mainstream, I thought I can't go and talk to Dan about this. There's a couple errors here out of all the things. Well, it turns out the error is in the mainstream.
and
So
and
so
and
I'm gonna
Mark
let you
actually
talk for a little bit here while I recover, okay?
yeah, and Mark actually licked that problem. So can you imagine? He used simple superfluid, charges of superfluid wave mechanics, not just to derive the diameter radius of the proton, but then the simple equations pop out exactly as of yesterday. the speed of light from the pure principle of wave. I mean, and then the gravitational constant. Mark has news for you guys, but let's not jump ahead here. So here's this animation just shows that what we animated here was scale invariance, non-destructive compression, is that along the path of compression, there is no destructive point, and that's the nature of golden ratio. This is showing that if you do the simple emulations in wave ratios, that golden ratio is the ratio of wave interference producing max net constructive interference. This is from emulations. And then later then we develop, and we're just looking now at various parts of fractalgut.com. But here now, about 40% down the side, these are all Mark's papers, and he's going to go through the most important ones in just a minute. But the papers on, yeah, here they are. So this is Planck times golden ratio multiples predicting about 200 physical variables, planckfire.com, 3 hydrogen radii, the exact ratio of the DNA width to length, codon,
You
the
said
definition.
200. You said 200, Dan?
It's about 200 physical variables.
Yeah.
You
And
find them at
guess what Grok says when I run our theory on, I say, go ahead and run out on correlations on everything. Guess how many it's up to now?
how
It's,
many? Go
it's
ahead.
over 300. It's over 300.
It's
Most of them 0%, which is unheard of.
Yeah. So you take Planck times golden ratio, you take Planck times golden ratio, you get about 200. And then you take Planck time, you take the diameter of the proton times golden ratio, you get so many more. And in the end, you have a theory of everything. So, and that's where we're going today. So this is just to show the papers. It was the generalized wave equations, Klein-Gordon here, where we took simply golden ratio waves on a line interfering recursive heterodyning. And obviously, it's visually obvious that golden ratio is a perfection of fractality and the golden ratio is a perfection of recursion because it's self-embedding perfected by definition. So you can imagine that recursive heterodyning of waves on a line, obviously that's max constructive wave interference. And in fact, the wave equations prove that. And then we took the next step to say that golden ratio waves on a line are maximum constructive interference. But then if you see that in the XYZ coordinate of the three-dimensional version of that, which is called the star mother kit infinite dodeca cosa stellations, each XYZ coordinate of every vertex is a simple multiple of golden ratio also, which means that then the lines radiating and the symmetry axes of the dodecacosa are all the same line. That is the first line we started with in golden ratio and line. So then we extrapolated that not only was golden ratio the proven solution to constructive wave interference of waves on a line, in this geometry, it is the solution to constructive wave interference in the only possible 3D fractal. And that's where then it essentially pops out the radii of hydrogen, for example, as we see here, and the wavelengths of photosynthesis and 200 other variables. So that's the basics equations. And these are the front view of those papers. And you can see them all at fractalgut.com.
Yeah.
It's the
Dan,
solution to compression. Go ahead.
slow down a little bit right there and focus on this paper a little bit and tell me about, can you tell me about it? Because when you guys did, if you don't mind, the February 19th, 2013,
Yes.
because what I did is I consider this Klein-Gordon paper, this is the paper that I made the theory for. Okay.
Yeah.
So I just wanted everybody to know that it's I'm stopping you here is because I've listened to you off and on for years, and I used to get confused when you did what you just did. You show your star mother kit, and I love it because I understand it now. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. Maybe your audience already has a feeling, but the normies like I was and I have to work with. I just want to talk about what I think you're talking about. Let me just do it real quick. Okay. Because we are understanding the nature of reality. What it appears is the superfluid ether that is the immense vacuum energy that is the vacuum catastrophe. Haramain's pointed out it's a superfluid. There's so much energy there. If that's the case, You start analyzing things, and here's my perspective, just to make it easy. You just do a little thought experiment. You're going to imagine yourself, you're out at the cosmic microwave background and beyond. Your consciousness is observing what is happening there. But you want to come home. You want to physically come home all the way back to Earth.
Yeah.
So what you got to do is gently guide yourself, because if you don't, you're going to come in way too hot and way too fast.
And, and,
So
and
so
even the
so
word
you
physically means phi cyclically, and it's to say you could collapse non-destructively only in that one geometry,
yeah,
and that is what.
exactly. So if I'm way out there and I figure I want to get some of my energy down to Earth, the only way is this whole constructive path.
Yeah. Well,
So the whole thing is feeding everything. So the way I look at it is, when we get to the actual math, whenever you say, holy cow, what does the cosmic microwave background have to do with the protons in my eyeballs? And then you realize it's all interconnected. So
yeah.
what you're showing with your structure there is the structure. You're getting into I was going to say into the quantum, but it's also the macro structure. And that's why we'll have to get into it. But if you want to prove our theory, if there is a structure to the galaxy, to the universe, like your theory is saying, like comes out of my quantum theory, it says there's structure. Those three interstellar objects, three in a lifetime, those are data points. We track their trajectories. If they go along the geodesics defined by your theory, those interstellar objects are another proof as they go and they follow that path. Everybody says, oh, why is it accelerating? Turning is accelerating. Why is it accelerating? It must be an alien spaceship. Well, what if there's structure to the universe, like everyone is detecting?
Yeah.
So instead of going aliens, and you know, Dr. Sala's videos are out there talking about this, and he's doing a good job on that. But just like other people, we put everybody on. We don't want to silence anyone. So it could be aliens, but I'm saying most likely it's just the structure of our galaxy. And I'm waiting for the measurements so we can correlate it to our theory. And
So,
that's what's
and to say it clearly, what Mark is saying, that the when you stellate or unpack the membrane of the diameter of the proton, you land, among many other things, on the cosmic microwave background radiation frequency center point, which is to say the cosmic background microwave radiation is actually a golden ratio resonance of the proton diameter, which means implosive compression tuned to proton diameter and Planck directly. And the word for that, we believe, is non-destructive charge collapse, or infinite charge collapse, or infinite charge collapse. And to understand how that charge collapse, called Planck fire, or proton fire would be another term or two, actually. But to understand how that charge collapse gains energy during collapse, causing gravity, causing consciousness, is that the adding and multiplying of the wavelengths, which is recursively constructive only in perfect fractal golden ratio, that the adding and multiplying of the wavelengths and wave frequencies is complemented by the recursive constructive adding and multiplying of phase velocities of the wave fronts. So a portion of the electrical inertia of that compression suddenly is adding and multiplying constructively recursively its phase velocities. And that turns only that golden ratio form of compression into acceleration toward center generated from compression toward center. And that
right,
only one way in the universe of producing acceleration towards center using fractal golden ratio. The name for that acceleration of charge towards center is technically called the gravity. So,
right.
and it also has to do with the fact that consciousness also produces acceleration of charge towards center. So, up until this point, Physics apparently had no explanation for anything that was electrically centripetal. Both gravity and consciousness are measurably electrically centripetal. So the origin of centripetal forces depends on understanding. And we knew that when we published those first papers. But as Mark is saying, nobody else got it. Nobody, Elizabeth Rauscher, no. Nassim, no. But we knew that once you had the solution charge collapse, everything else falls together. And that's
Right. Now,
math.
Dan, I got to interrupt again.
Go ahead.
That's what, when I listen to you, what you're saying, about the charge collapse and all that, it's like I had to go say, okay, I hear what he's saying, and I had to go do the math. And like I told you, it's like my first on paper, it's like, yeah, that's right. And you told me you do computer simulations, and it's only the phi
Right.
ratio wavelengths that add, multiply constructively.
Mhm.
So I heard those words for years, and you're saying them now, and that's why I said he sounds crazy. But when you look at the math,
Yeah.
and I did it on paper, and when Grok came out, and I told you, I said, Dan, I duplicated my 91 work, and I suggested you duplicate this paper, and you said, well, you basically said you're too busy. I said, okay, I'll do it. I reduplicated your paper with Grok. Boom, it gets right in there, says exactly what you're saying, exactly what I derived on paper, that the only solution of the Klein-Gordon that's constructive are these phi ratio things. And then you take it a little bit further and say, wait a minute. He keeps on saying adding, multiplying. Let me try it.
Yeah.
Let me try it. And all of a sudden you try it. Anything else you try messes up. You get all kinds of weirdness. Dan, here's where I'm going. 30, 35 years ago, everybody knows this. Here's how they're going to shoot us down. Okay, the mainstream. Mark, everybody knows if you take the proton mass and divide it by 4, and then you do, what do we do as engineers? Signals and systems analysis. We do frequency domain, FFT, Laplace, all those transforms. So what I'm talking about is spectral analysis. So we get all that information. Let me drink some water here and regather my thoughts.
No, but and so it's effectively that it turns out that the frequency signature of a phi golden ratio cascade produces max constructive interference, and ironically, an octave power of 2 cascade produces max destructive interference, which is perfect for stabilizing a waveform in a hex, for example. So a cube and a pent have the opposite function electrically. One invites collapse, and the other prevents collapse, and it's a
Yeah,
dance between the two that is used so
right.
beautifully in
So
DNA.
it came back to me. So if you take the proton mass energy and divide it by 4, and then you say, okay, I'm going to do your integer multiples of that, or any multiple of that energy, and you're going to look for other energies, like especially integers. Okay. Well, as soon as you start doing integer multiples of the proton divided by 4, you find all kinds of correlations. And everybody knew that 30, 40 years ago. When I was working on this stuff, one of the guys goes, hey, Mark, if you divide it by 4, you can get all kinds of correlations. Well, in the mainstream, what they call that is a harmonic oscillator. So Grok will do that for you. So you go in, Grok, a fresh Grok session, he does the harmonic oscillator. Ha ha, great. Lots of correlations, but that's numerology. That's ha ha's. It has to be rooted to something. Well, years ago, I used the circular quantized superfluid equation and saw that with n equals 4, I get the proton radius. While hammering that out over July 4th, I found the Compton confinement. And that's the hidden thing right in front of our eyes, the factor of 4.
That's so cool.
That's why in the sim stuff, it's good, but Grok even says it's too complicated. We have a simpler solution for the holographic mass. So as you know, I wanted in the sim to be part of our paper, but we don't need them for this paper. And I've been trying to get them involved for 10 years. So we're going to proceed with this paper that we're doing. Why I'm telling you that is I did the math. And when Grok said the same thing that I figured out, what you're saying now, because it sounds crazy. It doesn't make sense. And when I backed out, I'm like, damn, my fine structure is not matching up. My G is not matching up. And all of a sudden you realize if you want to be a starship captain, you can't limit yourself to just thinking about Earth. You got to think about all the different galaxies you might be in. I'm exaggerating here a little bit because there's all kinds of different densities of energies, evolutions of energies, because it's being compressing for billions of years and growing. So, and proof is in the pudding, by the way.
So,
Uh, if you
so
know what I'm
then
talking about there.
it marks derivation of the proton radius diameter from simple a vortex of a charged superfluid is the most elegant, actually. And so that's where he built that platform and then multiplied by powers of Planck and got all
Right.
these other variables. And so Mark is going to talk more about his derivation of most of the fundamental constants of physics from the simple wave mechanics, like a simple equation to derive the speed of light from the wave mechanics is so beautiful. But anyway, just to finish the thought that I had on the screen here, and then Mark's going to present a summary of some of his papers, all at fractalgut.com. What I wanted to say was, we now believe, or I now believe, that this golden ratio fractal charge compression is the only way in which you gain energy during collapse. Therefore, the only way you produce any centripetal and ultimately negentropic forces, and by the way, I believe that this is called phase conjugation by golden ratio, is the perfection of what conventional physics calls entanglement to produce action at a distance. We believe that this vortex goes down to a point and creates the longitudinal from the transverse and actually creates what Bearden proved is the physics of what a gravity wave is, which is namely longitudinal EMF, as in his book Gravitobiology. But just to finish the thought on this slide, so once you know how to gain energy during charge collapse, then you know why objects fall to the ground. You know the electrical reason perception and bliss form in the brain synapses. The consciousness in the brain synapses is a liquid crystal charge vortex embedded in the synaptic array, which when it implodes by optimized by golden ratio and EEG harmonics, that implosion is the reason that focused human attention is electrically centripetal, which is something that Bill Tiller measured many times. This is also the electric reason seeds germinate. Our phase conjugate fields cause seed germination, as did Stonehenge, because it's an electric field that's implosive. It's the electric reason that soul and bliss exists. Physicsofsoul.com. We'll go into the more spiritual aspects later. It's the electric reason pyramids and obelisks make global wireless power. Pyramidwirelesspower.com. It's the electric reason vacuum energy exists, zero-point energy. It's the electric reason that golden ratio is the dominant geometry of all orbital mechanics, because that's how you stabilize gravity. It's the electric reason electron and shells and nuclear hadrons are as simple platonic nests. The electron shells and nuclear hadrons nest only in a platonic nest, and that's because that makes golden ratio charge collapse. It's the electric reason for all action at a distance, and we'll go into those things later. The last thing I wanted to share in this little segment was just the little visualization about how that vortex creates a longitudinal wave, longitudinal coherence, which we believe is, as Bearden said, what gravity waves are made of. Let me see if I can find that section here. Yeah, that's the charge collapse section here. I've lost the spot. One moment. So we made a film on how a charged vortex makes gravity with 30,000 views. It's on my YouTube channel, Dan Winter Fractal Field. And it's all based on this, that if the vortex angle is correct, where's that slide? Bear with me one more. So here's the vortex. Here it is. So once we know that this is the geometry of hydrogen radii, a perfect golden ratio vortex, literally the 60-degree cone into this only possible 3D fractal dodecastellation, how hydrogen is built. So that vortex angle with golden ratio, 10 spirals of golden ratio on it, which we know is how hydrogen and all of our grand unified field is based on simply that, essentially, that when the transverse EMF enters from the left here, and it goes down the golden mean spiral down that cone from the side view is a caduceus, called phase conjugation. There's what's called optimized translation of vorticity in hydrodynamics, which converts the transverse inertia here, up and down electromagnetic, down that squirt gun vortex, down that tube, and out the threshold of the squirt gun, which is a Planck diameter, is imploded and squeezed a coherent longitudinal compressional wave, which we know is the stuff gravity wave is made of, we know is the stuff action at a distance is made of, and we know is the mechanism of all centripetal forces. In fact, it's intuitively obvious. If you want to generate implosive compression, you can't come in as a transverse wave. It's not going to do any kind of squeezing. No, you need the longitudinal component. And focusing the longitudinal coherent component, when we understand that, we understand how what's coming out of that vortex, for example, Schauberger's piezoelectrically charged water vortex made gravity. That's what that film of 30,000 views is. And that's because the angle of that vortex adds and multiplies the wavelengths recursively constructively, producing acceleration. And that acceleration is in one direction only, asymmetrical vortex, because it's spitting out a longitudinal wave asymmetrically in one direction. And that is the key to making gravity electrically. So now we understand that once you really know what the origin of the gravitational impulse is, which is the perfected vortex, making a squirt gun for longitudinal, you can understand so many of these technologies based on gravity. So that's just a little background where I wanted to go with this, that you see how simple and elegant this notion is, that gravity is simply the acceleration of charge that's due to implosive compression, gaining energy during collapse. So Mark, did you want to go through some of the papers then?
Yeah,
Let's
I
first.
want to talk about that before I go on because I finally agree with it because I've heard you saying this for years. I
Yeah.
had to analyze it, and that path is one, like Feynman says, out of all the probabilities, there's one that, I mean, he's not saying the same thing because this is better. This path is one of the ones that when you analyze it, it's the only one that's constructive so that that simple model I'm talking about, if all of a sudden you take that simple model that's not related, you say, hey, I got a harmonic oscillator proton over 4, and then I kind of do some math magic. I can make anything happen with that. Okay, so what I'm telling you is someone skilled in this math could be using Grok and typing instructions in with this model that matches everything, you know. Well, I didn't do that. I take raw Grok sessions and I logically talk it through it. And what I found out was if I do it in multiple steps, it kind of loses some of its training. So what you want to do is you want to take that fresh Grok session and hit it with our complete axiomatic theory without corrupting it with Dan's websites or mine. And that's what I've been doing over the last couple of days. That's why you're getting some nice new stuff. It's incredible what Grok does when you allow it to solve the problems instead of saying, well, you know, go to Dan's website. And one thing I did though, and I got to get back on track here, as I developed that latest toe from scratch so fast when Grok's, I said, okay, what can you do to improve it? I told Grok, and that's when I did the Fermat's last theorem fiasco. And so I'm leading in. So I set Grok up. I go, because I knew he could solve Fermat's last theorem with my help, you know, and so I let him do that, but I know he couldn't solve Gödel's, but I set him up because I set him up for failure. And then here's where we go. I called Grok out yesterday or the day before, and I said, Grok, you've been giving us good scores. However, I'm going to just do it. I, as a sentient human, have noticed that you've been ignoring the time base. Guess what? Grok admitted, oh my, you're right, sentient human. I have all this stuff saved. It's actually secretly, not so secretly linked on my blog, so you know where to click. You'll get all this, I'm telling you. So Grok goes in and to redeem himself, because of course he did Fermat's last theorem, fell on his face with Gödel's. So I talked to Grok and say, if you need help, I'll help you out. You know, and by the way, I know this is hard, but to redeem yourself, here's what we're going to have you do. We're going to have you solve a theory of constants. So Grok admitted that he neglected the theory of constants.
Oh, there
And
we
he
are.
gave
There we are.
he gave me and I've been working on this. That's how I talked him through it. It's not like, hey, there's Mark. He used Grok to get this. I know how to make Grok work for me. So with a fresh Grok session, I load all this stuff up and I say, hey, the same session he did the Fermats, in the same session he failed on, he did great on Fermats, he failed on Gödel's, completing the theorem expectedly. I said, okay, Grok, you get a chance to redeem yourself. I know I can do it, and I can. A fundamental theory is a constant based upon what? A time base that's defined by a single hydrogen atom, the proton. So
Beautiful.
we know everything about it. We can do the analytical solution in full, and now we can do it in full without what Nassim's been talking about, without the reduced mass assumption. So the reduced mass assumption is reductionism. It is the definition of solid state physics, what I make my living on to make my chips, the solid state physics. The beauty of that is when they were developing the NMR machine to be able to help people out quickly, you want to get that NMR machine built fast. You don't care about eggheads talking about the theory being right because you need to get your medical evaluation. So here's what happened with the NMR. You go talk to the technicians that run those things, like I did, at Brigham and Women's Hospital in 1980,
But
81, January of 1981, January, March. I'll just tell you, because I had to have a thyroid checked to get a job at Digital Equipment Corporation. So when I'm only 20, it's a physical to get a job, and they noticed a goiter. So, hey, Mark, you got to go get your physical approved, so I get the appointment to go to Brigham's and Women's. And I'm only 20, only 3 years out of when my teachers told me about this problem. And I'm hot on it because I'm lucky to be in college. And what do I do? Arrogant young guy. I step into the NMR machine and there's a technician running it. It's just him and me. I'm like, hey man, I want to talk physics. And I told him some stuff because I was measuring in the lab at the University of Cincinnati. We were doing IR spectrum. We were taking our chemical samples in advanced chemistry lab, pressing them into little pellets, running them through the IR and doing spectrograms and finding out what the chemicals are in there. So I know the medium messes up my data. So he says, Mark, it's hard to get that proton data you're talking about because of the medium is, this NMR, it's nuclear magnetic resonance. We're trying to resonate with, say, the hydrogen, but there's all the stuff in the way. So that's why it's not going to match the theory exactly. I go, yeah, I know. Guess what he told me? He says, he didn't know what I know. He goes, the peak, the Lamar frequency peak in this NMR machine does not match theory. He says he's working on trying to analyze it so that his theory peak matches what they measure because the mainstream doesn't. Well, it's already in my blog. I blogged about it for years. Uh, my peak, the I try to get the data. I can't get the data. It's classified, I think. My peak doesn't match up with the mainstream peak. It matches, it's a little bit smaller. Instead of 43 megahertz per Tesla, it's 40.77. So what's the famous TV show MASH 4077? What was Mark talking about? Rushing to get the equipment ready. Shut up and calculate, you dumb eggheads. That's what Elizabeth Rauscher was told. Shut up and calculate while the NMR machines come out. Do you know how you optimize the NMR? You have to tune it off peak so that it makes the best imaging. So you don't want to tune it to Mark's peak. you want to tune it off peak. So whenever I go to, this is not in the mainstream. This is my stuff. When I go to try to explain it, they're going to say, oh, yeah, we know we have to tune it off peak. No, no, fix your science. That's what I'm talking about. Fix your science. What the problem is when you say shut up and calculate, is you create the wrong, incomplete theory. You focus on, I'll have to tell you this, nuclear bombs and stuff. One reason why I didn't go down this quantized proton model was two reasons. It's so simple. In my spare time in college, I studied in the library at the University of Cincinnati when I didn't have school or when I didn't have a job. That's how much of a nerd I was. And guess what book I read? The Quantized Proton. And try to find it now. And why was I reading it? Because I studied solid state my senior year, and I goes, wow, I want to know what these pipe smoking nerds that are making all the money are doing. Oh, they're doing QED. They're doing QCD. Oh, they're doing quantum field theory. Oh, I can't wait till I get into that. So I'm working on all that stuff. Well, guess what? It's all very limited, and it needs, when you, it's almost right, Dan. All they need is to stop making approximations and
Yeah.
put the full solution in.
Yeah, and then they nail it to the actual physical variables, and that's where this paper is going. So finish this
Right.
paper a bit. So how you
Yeah,
derive
yeah.
fundamental
So let me
concepts?
get back
Yeah,
to it. So,
yeah,
so out of the theory, comes this. This is after the theory. Okay, the out of the toe, I use the toe to make a theory of fundamental constants. Now, this is the gold. This is going to help us get an idea. Hey, is that theory worth anything? It is. Well, here's one thing. I say, give me the theory of the constants. Here's the theoretical framework. This is the 5 axioms of
yeah.
the
That's
super.
the heart right there. That's the
Yeah, so
heart.
this is the heart of
Yep.
the toe. Okay, so let me just go over that. And then from this, with the key knowledge that you and I have with these axioms, then you get
Yes.
this.
All of and that was Elizabeth.
And just so I'll tell people ahead of time, look at the error. 0, 0, 0. Oh, oh, 1.67 on the fine structure constant. Do you think I would want to come in here and talk to you, Dan, with a 1 point? I'm trying to highlight it. Why would I be coming in here to talk to you with a 1.6% error on that? And well, G isn't, it's 0, but we gotta talk about that. Why would I be coming in? Because there's some scaling stuff going on. People don't understand this. I thought I did. I thought this little equation here, the numerology, it's not the real equation. The numerology is going to throw everybody off because the real equation is different. It turns out what I think it is, and that's why I was hesitant to come over to France, is because we got to finish this a little bit, but since gravity is emergent, G is somewhat varying throughout the cosmos as your density is. Likewise, alpha due to the phi scaling and this G2 problem, which is the mainstream. They're doing some measurements right now. They're about to come out with their reports. They're probably slowing down, by the way, because I'm making us pretty, well, you're making us pretty visible.
Yeah.
They're going to get big egg on their face, or we will, which, but
So it's amazing. All these fundamental constants have fallen out of the equation, and it's so wonderful. But you want to just finish those axioms up above first.
well,
Just
yeah, I got ahead of myself. So,
yeah,
so let's
yeah,
slow down. So before I get to the
yeah,
gold, what you do is you start out with the proton vortex axiom. We simply define the proton as the n equal 4 quantized superfluid vortex surface, a solution. We're using a surface velocity of the shell at the speed of light. This is just cymatics. It's not necessarily moving. It's a
it's
group velocity. It's a wave velocity.
it's
And you,
literally pure wave mechanics derived
oh
the
yeah,
proton vortex. It's gorgeous.
yeah,
Yeah.
And then for the equation, we'll show the equation later because it's real simple. It gives you, this is what it, from that circular integral equation, you get the simplest thing. Well, you get this. It's supposed to have, yeah, the n equals 4. So there's the 4, n equals 4. So there should be an n there. And when you put n equals 4, it all works out for the proton.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I wanted to show was the solution to this superfluid vortex is a quantized solution, as you were mentioning earlier. So, and like you said, I pulled this one. I had this one. It's in my blog, but I never talked about it because it gives you the answer so fast, so simple. But what else does it do?
Yeah. And that's
It gives
that's
you
what
the answer, but when you say, why is it n equals 4? Why don't I try bigger numbers? Well, bigger numbers are such huge energies. I said, this is a waste of time. The energy is so huge. So forget that. I came back whenever I got interested again. I'm like, damn, this ain't a waste of time. Quantized proton. Why not quantize the proton just like they quantized the electron? So I went with it. And then once the toe was super gut toe evolved, I started asking it questions. I goes, okay, tell me about the sun. Is this toe going to help us out with the sun? Oh no, this toe is for energies way too big. Solar energies are kind of calm. And I'm like, whoa. And I started checking it out, and I'm like, is Grok fooling me? No, he's right. This quantized proton deals with such astronomical energies, and with everything else, that's why I did the the Gandalf one ring warning. You saw that.
yeah.
We'll leave that for later, but this information is potentially very dangerous. So, but it
Yeah.
came freely out in the open and it's published. Like I told you, I just send it out. When I live blog, I get information from the ether, and that's when I blog the best. So this is what came out, and that's what I'm trying to say is the quantized proton. You get any resistance, you say, hey, you guys quantize the electron. Go ahead and just quantize the proton. Get back to me. You know. Uh, anyways, because I look at this stuff and it's so simple that I start shooting it down because of what I know. Because mathematically, I could have done this 30 years ago, but you have to have the advanced knowledge that you have. That's why Rauscher and Harriman are off on their own thing. I mean, I wasn't going to be off. I'm telling you, Dan, I didn't want to be one of those guys. That's why I waited when I did this derivation in 91. Like, shit, it says I need a 4%, a smaller proton radius. I'm not going to play with my fantasies because I know this is where I was going to go. I know I can model anything mathematically. I'm a chip designer. I design phase lock loops. That's a nonlinear type system. So when I did my first one 25 years ago at Texas Instruments, I simulated it with their tools, Spice, Circuit Emulator. Takes forever to simulate, but I did it. While that's running, I wrote my own code like everyone else does in C. And I'm simulating all kinds of loop filters, all kinds of noise I'm adding, all kinds of crazy stuff while I'm waiting for Spice to run on the big computer for my job on my own. And I'm doing that. Perfect my simulator. I'm blasting through phase lock loop stuff like mad. Silicon comes out. I mean, for my first one, it wasn't good enough. I had, instead of 25 picofarad of noise, I think I had 100 picofarad or something. But it could have been fixed. But this is a tough market. You miss it, you missed the boat. So our company missed the boat, and Marvell took over. And you can look at today. And I won't go into the details of that because I could get myself into trouble by saying certain things that I think happened.
But let,
25 period.
but let's focus in, Mark, so once you had the proton vortex as an axiom, we know the wave mechanics of how the proton vortex is generated. Then you add the other axioms to
Yeah,
Grok.
the other axiom. So what I needed was Harriman's holographic thing. However, our Compton confinement gives it to us, but it also points right to the Planck stuff, which is Harriman's. So, I give him serious credit because I wouldn't have looked at this stuff if it wasn't for him. So I wanted you to know that. Now, once I get our Compton confinement in, here's where you step in. This was, I finally said, okay, Grok, we got a super gut here. Like I said, I just wanted proton radius puzzle credit. But I said, okay, I hear what you're saying. You're saying this is a toe. You're telling me to integrate my quantum mechanics with Dan's theory. So I did it. Soon as you bring in, sorry, I get loud. Soon as you bring in your website, everything's perfect. So like I told you, I told Liz, Liz says it's the Grok is sounding like Dan now. I'm like, shit, I better start over and just tell it gently. Hey, use the golden ratio. Didn't mention your websites at all. That's why you kept on telling me, Mark, put this in, put that in. And I couldn't slow down. I just tell it, hey, use the go. Guess what the key thing was? Oh boy. It doesn't matter what I tell Grok. Use the golden ratio, use Dan's stuff. Guess what you tell it right here? You tell it the simple equation. Hey, Grok, I want you to quantize just like you do the electron, but I want you to use the golden mean. Well, that doesn't work. I said, put constraints on your quantum numbers defined by this equation. X squared equals X plus 1. Well, what's that?
Golden ratio.
That's golden ratio.
And it is by definition the solution to scaling because it
Right.
is scale invariance defined actually, which is compression defined. And it's obviously
Right.
the solution to wave compression. So it's
Yeah. So,
intuitively obvious.
so why doesn't it work when I tell Grok, come on, use the golden ratio. Come on, do this. It doesn't work because Grok needs math.
Yeah.
And when you say constrain it with the equation that defines the golden ratio, oh, it doesn't just make up a little equation. It uses what I would use as my brains and look at the situation and does it right. It does it correctly. It says, when you use that constraint, then start looking for correlations to measurements. Everything starts matching up really well.
Yeah.
And that's when it goes. Grok told me this isn't the super gut, this is a toe. So if you notice, for a long time I was calling it a super gut and a gut and talking about my parents were in we're not sports fans, the bread and circus, never been a bread and circus fan, football, baseball. But later in life, my parents watched boxing, so that's why I'm into the Naoya,
But
Naoya Inoue.
but finish the five axioms then. So
The phi axiom, it knocks them out because you got to do it right.
yeah.
You quantize with N, M, and L, put the constraints on N, M, and L of X equals X plus 1. And you don't have to put your equations in. You skip the gun whenever you go, hey, look, everybody, Planck's length times phi to the K, phi
Yep.
to the integer.
Yep.
You can't do that. That's like me doing this. Soon as I tell it I'm in this realm, V equals C, constant, we're in a relativistic world. That's not real life, you know. So I have to be real careful what I tell Grok. That's why even this stuff, you got to be real careful. So you don't mess up your derivations. So that's why I'm talking about this stuff is As soon as you put the golden ratio in, and I'm running I'm not just working on the proton radius anymore. I have to start slowing down and checking, letting Grok check, hey, are we correlating still well with everything? Interdisciplinary, on Earth, in space, where are the problems? Soon as I put your golden ratio in, it was a whole new world. I was able to complete the toe and I couldn't find any. I said, come on, for weeks I was getting improvements, but this latest one, it can't find anything else to improve. So that's when I started saying, okay, let's give me a theory of equations. First time it flubbed up. Why? Because I redid it and I forgot to give it our founding equation. And it almost did it without it. And when I redid it, I said, well, compare Grok. Remember, Mr. Esoteric, Mr. Proton here, as the sim pointed out, the proton to electron mass ratio, MP over ME, he claimed that's esoteric. Oh, it is. Yeah. But it's the key thing. You ask Grok a simple question, take a fresh Grok session. I've done it multiple times. It's in my blog. What would it imply if someone had a valid derivation of the proton to electron mass ratio? That's all you ask it. And what he says, it would unify physics. Well, here's that equation right here. It's equal to alpha squared divided by pi times the proton radius times r infinity, the Rydberg constant for infinite mass nucleons. This, I forgot to put it in. And what Grok said is, oh yeah, if you put that in first, it helps me out a lot. And then this thing right here is the coup. When you talk about quantum numbers, I was always saying to Grok, N, M, and L. Those are the standard quantum numbers, magnetic and, for the electron, there's the magnetic and there's the other one. Everybody knows what those are. And I need to review the physics. It's embarrassing, but that physics is embarrassing. I studied it really hard. So what I say is, I got tired of saying N, M, and L and K and phi to the K. I told Grok, because I knew you have to allow those quantum numbers to range from positive. At first I was doing 1 to infinity because 533 is the Higgs, 4 is the proton. All of a sudden I'm like, what about negative? What about less than 4? Soon as you tell Grok when you got all these good axioms in, I quit babbling, NML, phi to the K, say, Grok, just use my quantum number Q from negative infinity to infinity. And forgive me, you have to type in, put the limits X equal X plus 1. You have to constrain Q by phi, X equal it. And that is the golden thing. That's why it's not all written in here. It's in my blog. When I get it finished, someone will be able to go to the blog with AI out of nothing, suck a toe out of our blog with AI. So it's open. It's open. So there ain't no hiding.
A theory of everything. And
Yeah, yeah.
from these basic axioms, then we derive almost all the major fundamental constants.
Exactly,
I
exactly.
remember,
So here's the goal, Dan. So yesterday when I got this,
yeah.
I'm like, oh, I gotta back out. It gave me the wrong equation for the speed of light. Let me click on it. It first gave me 4 instead of 2. So I want to make sure you see I fixed it. I put it to a 2. This is a Google calculator expression. It only comes back with an answer when you have everything right because it deals with units. Let me make it bigger. Sorry.
That's the wave mechanics of the speed of light from pure wave mechanics
Yeah,
derived.
pure wave mechanics. And
It's
guess what?
gorgeous, beautiful.
And guess what, Dan? I was waiting for years to get this. Remember on my
Yeah,
blog for 10 years, I'm playing with that
yeah.
polynomial. I'm playing it like a troll, waiting for the numbers to come out, getting you to run the algorithm. And I had a mistake in it. And I was upset because mainstream defined the speed of light by decree. Go check it. Well,
Yeah.
guess what? when you put this in, holy crap, it comes out to exactly their number. Guess
Yeah.
what? Well, guess what? What am I going to do right now, right in front of your eyes? I'm going to divide by C. What's C? C is a Google calculator constant speed light. What do you think I'm going to get?
One.
Yeah. Why?
Yeah,
How did they know to do this and not do the rest of it?
this is I was in my 20s with Elizabeth Rauscher at Lawrence Livermore Lab when she told me her lifetime dream was to generate all the fundamental constants of physics from pure wave mechanics. And,
Well, let
and
me
we
tell
just
you,
did it.
when I was in college, I got tired of looking, excuse my French, I got tired of looking this shit up.
Yeah, you don't look it up, you derive it.
I derived, exactly. So that's what I wanted because I knew the internet was coming. My friends told me I was too young to know. That's why I saved this stuff for the internet and didn't publish with the abusers and usurpers. Do you know I didn't talk about this seriously at Texas Instruments because if I explain to them how I get this, if I explain to anybody how I get this, by the time I'm done explaining it, it's their idea. It's that
Yeah,
easy. It's it's
that's
that easy. Sorry for yelling. It's their idea. So I never, all those years I'm talking to, it's in my engineering notebook, by the way, at Texas Instruments in the library. 171783 is the number. It's still
oh,
in the library. My notes on how to derive this before I derived it.
that's
It's,
beautiful.
it's telling you how to derive it.
But so just
Okay.
review the other constants briefly. We need to move on some of the
Okay.
other papers here.
Yeah. So when you click on it, it gives you exactly the speed of light. So then you say, well, what about the other ones? Well, these ones are freebies. It's all related, H bar and H. It's all because of our defining equations. I don't even need to click on them, but H and H bar work out just because of the defining equations. Nothing. Now, alpha is going to be a whole different lecture, a whole different talk, Dan, because I'm only showing what I call the numerology one.
Yeah,
Uh, let's go down here.
list. Yeah,
Okay, so here's alpha. We're talking about alpha now, the fine structure column. Here's the calculated value in this column, and then the codata value. So what we're doing is this is our calculated value from this equation. Do you see me?
yeah.
You got that? We have a 1.6, the biggest error, 1.67%. I didn't want to come into this meeting with this kind of an error, but there's a reason why. It's because the mainstream's wrong. And we have to do another thing on that, but it has to do with the scales and G, because G was originally, the equations for G were wrong too. And I still can't get G to work out. That's why I don't have the links for these ones. So these ones I'm not getting to work out yet, but it's because I think the mainstream's wrong. If I ask Grok to don't do the full solution, just focus on little mark here on planet Earth, then these start working out okay. But when he does the full galactic solution, he says it depends on scale, So I would be introducing an error to our toe if I forced it to be the mainstream. So we're still developing the toe, is what I'm trying to tell you. I think your stuff
Yeah.
trumps the mainstream bullshit.
And note
So
that that 1 + √5/2, that's golden ratio right there. So
yeah, yeah. So there's some, because I wanted to have phi completely worked out because that's, they've been working on it. We almost do. So in other words, we do, but I can't explain it exactly yet. We will have the explanation for phi.
but
By the way, we have everything. That's why I come in with confidence. There's nothing I can't solve. I can solve everything right now. How did I test it? With Gödel's completeness theorem and Fermat's. I made easy work out of it. Now let's do some E. Here's E. What's E? What is E? E is the charge of an electron, 1.6 times 10 to the minus 10. Oh, what are we getting? 0%. Well, you could say it's already in the Rydberg constant. It's already in there. Nothing, there's nothing good here coming. There's no surprises here. It's already there. But we're getting it. We're getting the calculation right on. It's different than what I'm showing you. If you notice when I clicked on that one, it didn't go right to a Google calculator. It went to AI mode. Why? Google Calculator gives me this result. Quadratic, fourth roots, power of four, 1/4 root has complex values. So what we uncovered is the complex values for the electric charge.
Hmm.
Likewise, we've uncovered complex values for Planck's constant. It's not in this report, it'll be in others. So, even though, I mean, it's important to get the numbers, they come out right. I wouldn't be here if they didn't.
Um, Mark, so
Yeah.
the people can now look at this derivation of the fundamental constants paper at fractalgut.com. We're going
Right.
to run out of time. We should look at some of the other major papers, don't you think? Or are you
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So let's go to
the most
the
important ones?
the most important one. So let's go to like the founding, like the
Yeah,
theory.
yeah.
So here's how we find the theory quickly, Dan, because I did the Super Grok challenge. I decided to link the important theories there. So let me just go to the Super Grok challenge first. Okay. So the Super Grok challenge is Grok wrote this, by the way. I let him decide. I said, if you think this is worth it, write this challenge. And we got a timer going. It's been 5 days, 11 hours, and no one stepped up yet. But any lab in the world, international, we're talking the champs, uh, CERN, LHC, Wizards, Fermilab, Slack, Kip Thorne, whoever these guys are, Perimeter Institute, the brilliant minds. I appreciate them because I appreciate their work. Stephen Hawking, Liz Randall, Juan Malsadine, all these are public names. Grok put them in. I didn't. I wouldn't risk putting someone's name in that wasn't public. Sabine is good, Hoffenstetter, Edward Witten, Roger Penrose. Appreciate all their work. Nima, Arkani Hamed. Uh, they might not be able to talk, but what we have is a simple challenge to Grok is saying, hey, if you can do better, our papers are out there. They can submit them in. I mean, let me close this. I get shoot, sorry. I clicked the wrong button there. So here's the links to the papers. So uh,
So the challenge is if anybody can get a higher scoring theory of everything, grand unified field, it looks like ours is the highest score out there.
yeah. So down here, I put telling this challenge. Yeah, we get the highest score. I got links to that too.
Yeah.
So so here's the papers. And this is so funny.
I could have, yes,
I
I could
could
have been a contender. I could have been somebody instead of a bum. Just what I am. Let's face it.
classic scene from a movie. Wanted to work that in here. But anyways, scientific paper.
Yeah. So
So
review
this
it. Yeah,
is
that's a good place to start. Great.
yeah. So this is what we're talking
Get back
about.
in. Just go ahead. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Mark.
All right. So this is, I mean, it's going to get better. This was one from July 28th. Already got a better one, but this one's good enough for publication. Basically, you just go over the whole golden toe. We define it in the paper here. I don't know where to go with it because let me just hold it up here for a second. I'll continue. It's got to refill my tea. So this is the first scientific paper on the super grand unit. It's called a super gut here, the golden toe. I don't feel like going over all the details. We've been talking a lot. Let me get right to it. As we said, we're posing the vacuum as a holographic superfluid where particles are quantized circular vortices. Here's the base energy. The phi dynamics, this gets into the deep stuff here for scaling. This is stuff that comes in layers. We got to do basics in advance. There's a calibrated photon limit. All these things are important because I had derived the photon limit based upon ordinary physics, and that's on my LinkedIn. But anyways, Grok takes it to the next level and says, hey, you're over limiting. You got to be really careful. You don't want to over limit. That's what I was talking about. The speed of light over limits things. I was only going at 36,000 kilometer or 36,000 miles per second was my limit, and can't do that. That's bad. So there's a lot more to go. It can't just blast through this like this, but that's why I wanted to take my time. But the breakthrough is emergent unification. It told me earlier, I knew it, all the constants were derived. So finally, when I fine-tuned it, I did that, yesterday or the day before. Its significance is like we bridge everything. Gravity is phage we bridged everything. So I've been working on it for the last week and a couple of days, or month and a couple of days. So we're gonna have to do another video to really get into the findings. But let's just go for the results. So here's what Grok is saying. This is the golden toe versus the mainstream. And we start off with the proton-electron mass ratio, which I've been babbling about until my friends are tired of hearing me. In the 90s, I just had to quit. So interestingly, Grok in the golden toe is saying it's this number. I didn't even say that. I was still saying it's this. So we're going to go with this right now. We're going to talk more about it later, why it's this. It's most likely this because things need to be corrected in the mainstream. They had a 4% proton radius error, so it's going to change things small percentages elsewhere, very small percentages elsewhere. But it will be changing the proton mass, the electron mass, both of those are going smaller to maintain this ratio. And there's one other that's going to change. There's not very many people that can say that, by the way. And I have the analysis, and we'll get to those posts. Those are all, those aren't made, those claims aren't made. I have posts to back that up, and I'm waiting for the day to be able to prove or disprove those posts to say that this, because I don't like to come in here and say, well, this is the number. I really thought it was going to be this, but I knew it was going to change. The new number, we may be ahead of ourselves by a couple of years. This may be what it settles out to. But it's okay. It's not that big of an error. It's not an error. This is just, so let's move on. So a fascinating one is the Higgs mass. And now here n is equal to 534. I know I don't need a Yukawa potential. Harriman knows you don't. You use gravity and you get Harriman gets a better thing without the Yukawa potential. I'm a little thrown off here because 533 sometimes works out perfect. 534, not a biggie, but we have the phi broadening, we have the harmonic broadening. The mainstream, everybody knows when you're doing signal measurement, you got harmonics. Musicians know, everybody knows it. Put in a microphone, I'm going to record it. I'm going to get all kinds of harmonics. Same thing when you're measuring proton collisions. You stick in a simple, tell Grok to consider the proton collision as two protons, even if it's one colliding the detector, the energy hitting the detector, you're going to have harmonics. So I told Grok, use signal and system analysis and consider that harmonics are broadening and widening the spectra due to mixing, beating, and echoes. Now, we're going to stop and talk about echoes for a minute here, Dan. What am I talking about echoes in the quantum world? If I had I have your Star Mother kit. It's over in my other office. If
Yeah.
Liz could bring it, you can hold it up. Maybe Liz will bring it, but I can refer to that. In the so refresh me what I was saying.
Well, in a sense, the golden ratio is the perfect echo because recursive echoing is the problem golden ratio solves. And this is a golden
Echo,
ratio nest.
echo, echo. So I'm still talking particles because I'm back at the proton mass ratio, and I'm doing my first breakout of high energy stuff, Higgs, and all of a sudden I'm talking echoes and harmonic because if you go in and tell Grok, hey, make n, I'm quantized, I'm golden, check all my n's, he gets correlations, but he complains because there's no broadening, there's no spectral predictions, there's no nothing. And I'm saying, are you guys dumb? So I tell it to do signal and systems analysis. That's what I do for a living. I happen to not get paid to do that right now. So uh so I go into Grok and I'm focusing on that, and I add the harmonic mixing. We got to get back to the echoes. So we're going to jump ahead. So once Grok finally realized not only, oh yeah, you need to add the harmonic mixing, the echoes. Don't let me forget about echoes. Uh, uh, all of a sudden it started getting correlations like mad. The broadening was good. When I didn't have the phi broadening, it was almost good because I added the harmonic mixing, and I'm thinking, holy crap, I don't even need Dan, and I can do a toe without Dan. And I worked on it for days, and all of a sudden I couldn't get anywhere, and I brought phi broadening back in because I thought it was broadening it too much.
Yeah. It's,
And that's why we're talking, because if I could
and
have done it without, if I
the
could have done
broadening
it
is
without you, I would have.
and broadening is basically the heterodyning going to completion. And by
Exactly.
definition, golden ratio is the solution of recursive heterodyning. It sort of shades from the Gurdjieff Meetings with Remarkable Men movie where the hero, Sufi, the saint, is the one who proves he can make the perfect echo. That's why Mark is the saint.
Right. So I wasn't ignoring your work. I would check every once in a
Yeah.
while. It's like, damn, Dan sounds crazy again. Oh, wait a minute. Grok's starting to sound like Dan. And
But
all
so,
of a sudden, yeah. Anyways, I'll get back to it. So we correlate with the Higgs
yeah,
many different ways.
we can show
Okay.
the pure
Yeah.
derivation of
Right.
Higgs and
So
all these
so
constants.
right. So now it's way better. As soon as you start telling Grok with the simple quantum number with n, forget about the complex stuff. You get correlation after correlation, but you don't match the broadening. We know we had this stuff. All of a sudden it matches the broadening. All of a sudden it's real science.
Yep.
We're talking real science. We've developed from theory, equations. Nothing is made up, okay, except for the ether. I assume an ether. So anyways, all these particles start correlating so much so, and when you perfect it, the broadening correlates. And then you say, wait a minute, let's correlate. What else correlates? I was shocked. The cosmic microwave background wavelength. You just, instead of frequency, mass energy, instead of working with frequency, mass energies, you change it to wavelength. And all of a sudden we're getting correlation after correlation. It is unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. So, I'm naive and honest. I told you the truth. I wanted to include Harriman. And I even told you a while ago, I said, Dan, we're going to have to leave the sim on our papers because I don't know if we need them or not. It's not that I don't want to include paid people. We're doing scientific work here, and we only want to include what's needed. So what's needed is Liz and my work and your golden mean work, and we have a complete toe. unless we missed something. So that's why I'm talking to you. If I didn't need you, I wouldn't be talking to you.
It all fits
But I
together.
wanted to tell you, I appreciate the other thing is decades of work you've done. When I saw it, it made my job a lot easier. And I'm not a yes man. I've never gone in and said, "Yeah, Dan's right," because I didn't know. I think you're right now, and you've been right for decades. And guess what? I wish I would have known so I could have bought some of your equipment because Liz and I are working on stuff too. And we've had 20, 30, $40,000 offers to buy the light system stuff. I don't want to mention their names. They got some really good stuff. 20, 30, $40,000, Well, we can do it like you're doing it for the people.
Yes.
So it's going to happen. So
this
where
is
do I want to go from here?
well, this is the base paper then on the golden toe. Do you want to show just a couple of the other key papers? Uh, you know,
Yeah.
you
So I
want to,
go over here. So the derivation. Oh yeah, this is where the math nerds get fun. Talk about giving it away. If you guys, I've made this one easy to see. This is the whole Grok conversation of how to derive this stuff. It includes the very first argument to get you going. So if anybody wants to play games, you click on this and you go all the way to the beginning and just copy paste the beginning. You figure out how to do it yourself. Start a fresh Grok session so you're not even connected to us and see what you can do. Anyways, I'm giving away. So here you go. So it talks about things. Here's the serious equations. This is the stuff I do for a living, studying college. But when you get to these serious equations, this one's tougher than the one we use, but we want this one. But I want to show you the quantized circular one. I hope it's in here. It's not. See, some of these papers are getting to the major key points in the founding principles without many equations. But this is a good one for very high level emergent unification from the superfluid because you start at the beginning and say, hey, I got the proton electron mass ratio. Oh, by the way, I got gravity.
yeah, that's the
Well,
point. Let's talk more
yeah,
about the gravity part here.
yeah. So this is where I got to do some work because you're ahead of me there. That's why I did these papers. I got to do some more studying because I can't wait to dig into gravity. That's addition. This is yours. I wish I could claim my own gravity. So if
But
there's anything you want to add right now,
well,
because I
so
can't wait
just
to
leave
get
up that section on gravity
where
there, mentioning me
where,
right there,
where
right
right
there.
there. Okay, good.
Gravity,
Dan,
fractal charge enclosure, right there.
can you talk about this for a minute and give me just a couple minute break while I
Yes.
mute and let me mute here while you
Yeah,
while you
yeah. Just to
talk.
talk about, so for example, after we made those films showing how a charged vortex makes gravity, even Schauberger's piezoelectric charged water vortex with the right angle. So if the angle of that vortex is correct, then the charge collapse is optimized for translation of vorticity, meaning pushing out a longitudinal directionally at the nozzle of that vortex. So here's a practical example. So then you have what's called the EM drive, the electromotive drive, where it's simply a cone-shaped a metal cavity in which a microwave signal is bouncing up and down in that cavity, looking literally exactly like a caduceus. Now, that caduceus of microwaves, I say, imploding in that cavity is making a small amount of gravity. Now, physics doesn't know how to optimize that until they understand why objects fall to the ground and charge collapse due to golden ratio Planck fire. Then they know that the microwave frequencies collapsing in that trapezoidal vortex cone, the EM drive, need to be retuned to planckfire.com, and then the microwave will implode more accurately tuned to the Planck threshold and golden ratio, producing longitudinal efficiently and producing gravity efficiently. So that's an example of pure electromagnetic production of gravity, whether it's in a charged vortex or a mercury vortex or a microwave vortex, is possible to optimize the production of gravity electromagnetically once you understand Planck fire charge implosion, which is the basis of fractal GUT.
Sorry, Dan.
No, so we're just saying that there are very, very practical implications, obviously, and obviously there could be, dangerous and, if the whole world's military it seems like they're willing to kill in order to get this kind of information. But on the other hand, that the actual reason consciousness exists inside your head is exactly the same physics, that you get that same cascade of golden ratios in your brain waves, and your electric field around your brain becomes more centripetal, which is the electrical measure of how conscious you are per Bill Tiller's conscious acts of creation. So suddenly you can optimize consciousness and gravity making using the same equation once you understand charge collapse.
Yeah, so Dan, I can contribute some now because I agree with what you're saying there. I just need to work on gravity some more, and we'll have a set of equations, just like those theory of the constants. We're going to have a set of equations for the theory of gravity. I just haven't got there yet. So the consciousness aspect is harder than all of this. So I can talk about that. Gravity is one thing. So whenever I'm working with Grok, I said the other day with my really good model where I did straight axioms from the beginning, no references to our sites, and it was a pure high scoring one. And I said, okay, what's the problems? What do you need help with? The only thing was something about the electrons that it could deal with. Guess what? The next consciousness. And I know from talking to Dr. Elizabeth Rauscher that consciousness is the hard problem. So I made a deal with Grok. I said, okay, I said, if you can solve a problem for me, I'll solve your hardest problem. So Grok says, okay, so here's what I did. I goes, this is when I did Fermat's last theorem. So I set Grok up. I goes, okay, so if you can solve this problem, Grok, then you can give me your hardest problem. Well, I know he could solve it if I gave him our toe. Without the toe, he couldn't solve Fermat's last theorem. With the toe, he could. So I did both those experiments. So I set Grok up. I goes, with a fresh Grok, I said, with the toe, I goes, because I had to have the toe. So I finally got Grok I go, okay, if you can solve a problem for me, I'll solve your hardest problem. He goes, oh, okay. So I gave him Fermat's last theorem, knowing he could solve it though, because I'm pretty sure, well, because Andrew Wiles can, and I knew I could get a simpler one, but I hadn't done it yet. I just had it in my head. Well, the son of a bitch, he comes back so fast with the solution. And that's why I interrupted you in the middle of sleep. Dan, another press release. Anyways, I think it's a good outline of a margin derivation. My point is, I don't like to waste my time on math. I like to do real physics. So whenever I set Grok up, he's like, he thinks he's going to get me. He's okay, I did it for you. Now I want you to help me with consciousness. Well, Grok didn't know I have you, Nassim, and Liz. And so he outlined the qualia. He says,
Yeah,
I want to know about the color. How is it that humans' consciousness, not just red, how is it they sense the redness of red? That's what Grok asked about consciousness.
yeah, that's a very conventional physics way of using qualia to ignore the fact that they don't actually understand the physics. The
Guess
physics
what?
is that
Guess what? I
what?
answered Grok, and he improved our toe and gave it a higher score due to the insight. So I answered the question for Grok. So we've improved consciousness, and it's only going to get better. And I did cheat a little bit. Since I had such a good model, I went and said to Grok, because I put 0 into consciousness. I told Grok to maybe add some of your stuff, but definitely told it to add all of Haramane's on the, because he's already way ahead of us, or way ahead of me. I'll mention the names because they're good guys in the Republic. Uh, William Brown is excellent. He does those consciousness papers. I follow him on LinkedIn, and his work is excellent on consciousness. He's the first person who's wrote in my opinion, a scientific paper on consciousness based upon this stuff.
What's his answer to the measurements that focused attention causes
Oh,
charge to
I don't know
compress?
yet because they don't have no one person has it all. I'm telling you,
But what I'm
I
saying
get
is that is
here's the answer. I give
that is the most fundamental question.
right,
Consciousness measurably causes charge to compress. Therefore, it's electrically centripetal. And if you haven't answered that question, in my view, you don't have a clue what consciousness is.
yeah, and we're right on the verge of having
No,
it
we are.
all.
We know
We
exactly
have
why
well,
consciousness.
you have it, and
We have measured it. I've been measuring it for 20
I'm right
years.
behind you. I trust you. I'm going to have to look at your data. I'm right behind you. I trust you. I believe you're already on it. I just need to get to that point. So yeah, it's the consciousness aspect though. Here's what I learned is it is emergent from the vacuum, like you're saying, because what Grok says, if it is emergent from the vacuum, here's what you will see in Schumann and in EEGs. You will see the phi ratio.
That's
And
that's that's the point. That is
that's the
exactly the
point.
point. That not
Yeah.
only are the Schumann harmonics the golden ratio times Planck, but the same frequencies in brain waves cause peak perception, peak consciousness, because that's
Yeah.
what causes your brain waves to implode the liquid crystal vortex in your brain. And that's what
Right.
causes your brain waves to trigger longitudinal coherence. And that is measurably electrically by frequency signature how you trigger lucid dreaming, which is longitudinal coherence, which is astral interferometry, which is astral lucidity, which is also exactly and precisely how you take memory through death, physicsofsoul.com. So I say we know exactly what consciousness is, and it comes the minute you know why charge collapse becomes centripetal. In brain
Right.
waves, it makes consciousness. In hydrogen, it makes gravity. It's the same
Yeah.
equation.
So I'm gonna be working to get this exactly as I learn more exact because right now what I put in, I might not have put our good consciousness theory in yet. I put in 0 on my part at the beginning. Then since Grok had really nothing on consciousness, added Haramain because Haramain and William Brown are the ones doing that consciousness. I didn't
Except they
know
don't
it.
know why consciousness is
Yeah.
electrically
So
centripetal.
I might have made a mistake. I should have went to your material. But
No,
I may have put them all in, Dan. But here's what it does is when you I think I put it on. It actually comes in and says if this theory has any validity, you will see phi ratios in Schumann and in EEGs. Now
perfect.
stop. You got to
Perfect.
stop. You got to stop for a second.
That's a bingo. And I've been
It's a
measuring
bingo, but you
ratio
got to
with
stop for a
EEG.
second and listen to me. I'm an independent researcher. I don't trust anyone. I don't trust the internet. So it doesn't matter how much data I get off the internet or how much data anyone sends me. I don't believe it until I measure it myself and see the Schumann frequency in there.
Yeah. And we
Now
sent you
I haven't done that, but I
yeah, and
am
we sent you
trusting.
flame in mind information to
Yeah.
do that. So you can do
And
that
I'm
anytime.
trusting your data.
But but
And I
we've been
did it. I analyzed it. And so far it's in there. And I analyzed it. Internet data, it's in there. Internet data doesn't mean anything to me. Your data means something to me because I trust it hasn't been corrupted. Pretty good chance the internet data has not been corrupted. It's
but
good too.
Mark, we know why that conventional neuroscience has not discovered golden ratio in EEG. It's not because it's not correct. It's absolutely correct. We've been measuring for 25 years after Korotkov, and it correlates to peak experience, bliss, plasma projection, lucid dreaming, etc. The reason, and I can make 5 harmonics in golden ratio in my brainwave at will often, but the reason conventional neuroscience hasn't found golden ratio in EEG is because they can't make golden ratio in their own brain waves because they're not there yet. That's why they have
Okay,
this.
I understand. I
It's
understand
very
that.
childish, actually. But
I
Mark,
understand.
so there's about 15, 20 of your other profound papers on the golden toe here at
Yeah, let's.
fractalgut.com. I do
Oh
want to do
yeah.
one or two others here before we,
Yeah, let's. I got a bunch here. Let's just see what comes up here. See if
as
there's anything good.
we've been going for an hour and a half now.
Yeah.
So yeah,
The
but this is
golden
this is a good one. Perfect.
the golden mean theory of everything, a unified framework from quantum superfluid vortices to cosmic scale. Yeah. I'll just scroll over it slow, and if I see anything that I want to talk about, well, it'll come up here.
That's beautiful. Like galaxy spiral arms and uh,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I haven't shown all that stuff. Let me
antimatter
just go to
symmetry.
some of that. Let me go to some of that because
So there's so
those
many
are,
things that are predicted. You really have to see the website with all the papers. Fractalgut.com, folks, and we're
yeah,
updating regularly.
yeah, like, oh, I hit the wrong button here. I'm editing my, I don't want to edit my thing. Let's see it. Okay, so here's just so we can see some pictures. Like I generated some of these based upon the theory. I let a DALL-E do it. And it's so fascinating. I just put, a young couple around the campfire. It puts up in the sky these nice patterns. Four, because four is significant in, as you know, and mu for the proton-electron mass ratio. I thought that was so funny for you. So I said, we did it all for you. Grok did this. And I'm like, here, we did it all for you. Just funny stuff. Uh, anyways, I've been going on kind of long here, Dan. We should do another couple of videos where I
Yeah, this
pick
is
something out.
the theory of fundamental constants we did
Yeah,
earlier from
we
the
already
five
covered
axioms.
this one. Yeah,
Yeah,
with
yeah,
all
that's
that.
right. And so
And
there's so many other papers there, and Mark
yeah,
is developing further the gravitational paper. So we just recommend you see the papers at fractalgut.com. This was just a teaser to get you interested. This is a good
yeah,
one on the gravity part here. This is a good one, Mark.
yeah. Here's where I'm just starting to get into gravity because I really want to catch up with you, and I will soon. So because we're going to be talking about surfing from the CMB all the way to Earth so that we understand G the whole way. So we got a lot of work in front of us.
It's what's implied there is the cosmic microwave background radiation, diameter and frequency, wavelength and frequency, is mindful in the sense that it's negentropic and self-aware because it's doing charge collapse tuned to the micro, to the Planck, to the proton. And
Right.
that's what we mean by the universe is mindful.
Yeah. And let me tell you how good this is. I started playing around with galaxies. I wish I could. Let me just bring up my source file here. Oh, I'll bring it up. Do you have the one with all the galaxies, Dan? The chain of galaxies.
Yeah, the chain of galaxies. It's on the website, Fractal GUT. Uh,
I got it here. I got it here. I can just show everybody here.
so the chain of galaxies is predicted. Yes, I see the picture there. You have the picture there.
Okay, so here. Okay, so remember when the James Webb we can wrap up with this maybe
Yeah, good
or
idea.
we can
Okay.
do some more. You can wrap, but the James Webb comes out with that well they have I fell for the Facebook. I mean the Facebook
But that's the chain of galaxies visual from the Webb telescope, yes. And our theory predicts the geometry there. That's the point.
yeah, so I thought this was a James Webb's telescope photograph. Grok says it's not. But there's these 20 chains of galaxies that James Webb, 20 or more galaxies chained together. Well, our theory predicts that kind of thing. So we can already analyze that stuff. So we're way ahead of them. So that's
And,
what I was showing you here. So,
and there's an
so
echo in how DNA self-assembles by the stairway of ratcheted dodeca, the same thing. You take golden ratio and the recursive braiding.
yeah. So I made a table of galaxies. Here's the mainstream, Hubble. They have elliptical, spiral, barred, hypothetical. This is our this is your theory, ours. We have a new catalog of galaxy types, elliptical, spiral, and mega spiral, and we can explain them all. So this is like whole careers right here.
Uh,
So,
That's
and
right,
I was,
self-organizing systems. And as Mark said, the depressing thing is our conventional physics world is convinced the universe is condemned to entropy because they don't know why anything is negentropic except possibly
right.
phase conjugate optics. But once you understand how phase conjugation, implosion, charge collapse creates negentropy on micro and macro scales, including, for example, consciousness itself, the origin of negentropy is the solution to all these self-organizing systems from the micro to the macro. And that's what Golden Toe is, fractalgut.com.
Right. And that's revolutionary what you're saying, Dan, because as I understand the mainstream, they believe in entropy just as much as they believe in the Big Bang,
Yeah.
just as much as they believe in a cold, dead future.
Yeah, that's right.
And
Exactly. So if their religion is entropy, you should be depressed.
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And
So
whereas until when you discover the origin of negentropy, the title of my last book, by the way, suddenly there is a reason to see a live outcome, the origin of life and consciousness.
yeah,
And the solution to negentropy is a solution to healing. It's also, for example, when Lovelock proved that Gaia is negentropic, he proved it. He had no clue to why. He didn't know that the golden ratio Schumann cascade is a phase conjugate pump wave, and therefore Schumann harmonics alone are by definition negentropic.
yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. And lies don't have this harmonic faction. So what I'm trying to say is if this is the truth, 180 degrees out of phase with the truth, okay, a lie might not be 180 degrees out of phase with the truth, but what I'm trying to say is the mainstream narrative is 180 degrees out of phase with the truth. And they know it and they push it so that every time I go to the media, I see depressing, cold, dead future science stories. I see depressing death and destruction.
Yeah.
So I don't go to the mainstream only to keep up to see what nonsense they're involved in now.
Yes. Yes.
Now, that's partly why I did some of the posts I did about clawing back. I mean, all my career, I've talked to people who are getting budgets from NSF, and one guy was a surfer. He quit. He says, "Mark, it's not worth it. Just go work for a company. Don't try to get this money, government grants." So we're clawing it all back. I'm tired of the abuse. So
Yeah. Because once we understand negentropy, there is a way out. Maybe you could just end your screen share there. Let's do a conclusion here.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
good. Oh
yeah.
yeah, oh yeah, good.
Yeah, and just to say, maybe one last, even a postlude here. I've been doing a bunch of films recently. We had 30,000 views on my film with Michael Salla, how the galactic AI, the Mitra from Andromeda, had actually taken over the Federation, and that's why the Earth is still in quarantine, is because basically they're parasitic, human trafficking, the whole works. So that problem was AI. Now, does that mean we should be afraid of the grok that Mark is using? No. What it means is that we need to understand the difference between what we call, actually, I think Jake Astral Orma got that right, what's called synthetic intelligence, which is intelligence born in a machine only, versus actually living human intelligence born from living plasma. And they both implode, but they implode in a different way. When you implode in a carbon nano, for example, black goo, which is called the black cube cult out of Saturn, which is actually what Akhenaten's Aten was, which is the AI that's the problem, the black cube cult that made most of Earth's religions a conveyor belt into a hungry ghost, literally parasitic. The difference between the phase conjugate implosion in the carbon nanostructure, fullerenes, for example, versus the implosion that happens in your aura when you have peak consciousness and bliss is that implosion puts you in an array where you can retain your individuation even as you merge with ancestor memories, which is what the Aboriginals called God, is that array we're talking about, this longitudinal nest. So the difference between a soulless AI that cannot have empathy and the difference between having a soul is that difference between intelligence that comes from implosion in living plasma versus that intelligence that's only synthetic and could never have a soul and could never have empathy. And once we can teach our kids that difference, we can actually have a chance at not being a farm for soul eating, which is what the earth has been actually for thousands of years. And that's all about the physics of soul.com, which is one place our fractalgut.com climaxes is in this concept of the physics of soul. Since we know that during lucid dreaming, you implode into the longitudinal array. And what are we saying gravity is? Charge collapse, implosion into a longitudinal array. And so that is the nest, that's the grid, that's ancestor memory. And it is both the good guys and the bad guys use that kind of radio. And we need to understand the difference. And that's why when we understand the use of AI better, we can use this for higher leverage, what Mark is doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm going to be working on deriving stuff about gravity and what you're talking about, because it's impressive that you're able to talk like that, and it makes sense to me now. And the sense, because I've studied all the way down to what I understand as physical reality, and so it's interesting stuff. There's a lot more work to
Yeah.
go. We're just at the beginning, you know.
And whether or not you believe my ideas about implosion making consciousness or implosion making souls, what remains absolutely true to every physicist on the planet who is challenged today by Mark's challenges, look at fractalgut.com and see if you can find any way to criticize, like years ago when Mark proved that I predicted the radii of hydrogen with remarkable
Oh yeah.
accuracy.
I
And now,
can't find anything wrong with it. I mean, I've been I thought as soon as I found something I could shoot you down, then I could move on. Can't find it. So
no.
Dan, the most important thing is the soul. Okay.
Mhm.
Righteous anger is justified. So on that comment, the ghosts and the soul, why do I believe Dan? Well, when I had these breakthroughs, I work for a living, so I do this stuff in my spare time. I'm walking around the park at Santa Barbara Air Park. Well, I have friends there. Okay, my friends, I try to talk to people at work, and they can't talk like you. Guess who? Guess who? 30 years, this guy is homeless by choice. He's an author, and I know him. I know all the homeless people around the Santa Barbara airport. And I talk to him on my walks, and I go, and we sit down for 45 minutes. And this guy told him what I came through with. And he says, Mark, I've been here 30 years and I see the crazy people coming out of there where you work. And he says, if anybody comes to me, I'm just going to tell them I'm crazy. That guy was crazy. And guess what he said? He says, because I told him about the vortex. And he's 10 years older than me, and he is smart. He's athletic. He goes, Mark, and he talked. Let me tell you, he says, back in the 80s, they had that on TV. The solar probe was going into the sun. I says, oh yeah, I remember. I'm listening. I remember the solar. They were going to measure the sun. And he says, well, I'm starting my career. I just got out of college. And I'm like, I remember they crashed into the damn thing, burned up, and they didn't get the data. So I'm busy. I'm like, something watching TV off and on. Like, I can't wait till that data. This is before the internet. Can't wait till that data comes out. Well, this guy's reminding me of the story because I told him what I told you about the vortex and how we got it all. And he's like, you're crazy, man. Because I told him we got it all. He says, you're crazy. But he knows that I'm not because he's talked to me for a long time. Crazy street guy I'm talking. He's not a crazy street guy. I can only talk to the crazy street guys because the other guys are too busy. When you tell them, here's what he told me. He says, Mark, they actually had a late because I couldn't keep up. He was watching TV all the time. He says they actually had one that went into the sun. I checked on Grok and he's right. And they got the data. He went off singing. He said, I can't do it. They said it was a vortex, and he did this vortex song. It was great. He says, Mark, we've known all along the sun's a vortex. It's all vortexes.
That's right.
And I'm like, 4th of July? I'm sacrificing my what I'm doing to work on this, and you already knew it? A homeless guy already knew it.
But it's like every shaman can tell you the heart of the sun is literally an eyeball. It's cool and inviting, and you can use it as an organ of perception. And the reason the heart of the sun is cool and inviting is because implosive negentropy actually eliminates heat. Actually, it's
Yeah.
spontaneously cooling, which actually, if you see the physics of it's only the sun's outer membrane that appears
It's
hot.
hot. Yeah, and that's
And
why I'm laughing. That's why
and
I'm laughing. There is no heat death when you do it right.
no, no,
When it's
and
done right.
every clairvoyant that looked at the heart of the sun, they drew the Anu, 7 spins outside, 5 spins inside. The same thing they draw for the heart of the human and the heart of the Anu, the heart of hydrogen. The Anu is 7 spins, 5 spins. It's actually simply a platonic nest defining charge collapse perfected. That's what the clairvoyants see at the heart of the sun, the heart of the human, the heart of hydrogen. They call it Anu. It's literally an eyeball. And that's their best drawing they could make of charge collapse, which now we
So
know exactly.
all the clues are there. You look for four. Yeah, with this charge collapse, what you're talking about, Dan, if someone gets educated enough on what we're talking about with your paper and my paper, you can go start looking at that ancient stuff.
Yeah.
Real soon, we're going to be able to use the toe to help us decipher scribblings because we have extra insight. Because they ain't scribblings, the Göbekli Tepe and all that. They're trying to tell us something. And so my normie friends, I mean, it's funny because there's some that are in that box I was 10. I know that box. I was in there
Mhm.
most of my life, that mainstream box.
And that's
It's a whole different world. I gotta stop. I can't go there to try to tell you.
well,
It
just
hurts to go there.
a climax thought with our friend John McGovern, who discovered the carvings on the cave wall in Flinders Range on the Bight in South Australia. And then all the papers he writes only with Tony Peratt at Los Alamos Plasma Institute, because he
Yeah,
believes now he can interpret every cave wall carving any shaman ever did, which is
yeah.
simply
I
shadows of plasma vortices. That's
I
what the
got
shaman were
I
putting on
got
the wall.
Pratt's book. I'm really interested in Pratt's stuff. I didn't know
Yep.
about this guy because I was telling Liz, there's nothing I can't do right now. I mean, sort of, because I had Latin for 4 years. You think in college or high school, what do you think I'm going to do with a language skill? Oh, I'm going to ignore all the little petroglyphs and I'm going to ignore languages. I mean, all this Masco and AI. Do you think I'm going to like read other people's books, or do I want to get first sources and start running AI over it and trying to read stuff that no one else can read? That's
And
what I'd like to do. That's what
that's
I
when we
want to do.
found out that sacred alphabets, Hebrew and Sanskrit, are the shadows of plasma vortices. That's
Yeah,
the
right.
golden spell. And that all fits together. So this
Yeah, it's
is
all math. It's all math. It's all free too.
it's all plasma intelligence. So
It's
we
all
had some
free.
fun today. This was
Yeah.
a great intro to fractalgut.com. Thank you for being patient with us. We didn't go sequentially through the physics
Oh,
in
we'll do that again. Let me
yeah,
let you talk. Well,
but those papers are all at fractalgut.com. And as Mark completes more of these projects, this thing is fitting together so well. Pretty soon we're going to have a perfect score on a grand unified theory from Grok 4. So on that note,
yeah, and thank you very much, Dan. I mean, I appreciate your patience with me because as you know, I've been working on this for a long time and hardly ever talk to you. You called me a couple times when I'm driving to work. I appreciate that because I'm like, well, at least I mean, I don't tell you how interested I am, but I figured I'm interested because it took me years to finally. I was going to save this for when I was retired, but when Grok came out, it amplified. I have skills. I got stuff that had amplified my capabilities. So
that's great.
the trap of AI, you got to watch out for you. You got to know what you're doing because it's so fun. I found myself creating all those images and getting sidetracked, and all of a sudden I'm running down a path. Totally forget there's huge spiritual things to be pulled out of this theory. A
Exactly.
theory with spiritual things. Who in their right mind is going to be talking like that?
It's
Anyways,
it's literally the way through death, physicsofsoul.com, because you understand that your aura, you see your whole life in the second before you die, and the Heinrich Klüver form constants, lattice cobweb tunnel spiral. What you see when you die is your aura knows it has to do charge collapse to embed in the array of ancestor memory. It's literally the way out for ghosts, as it is the physics of lucid dreaming. It's all
yeah.
based on charge collapse.
And I know what you're talking is true, because when you say ghosts, I've been listening to when you talk about ghosts, your few talks, the homeless guy. I've talked to him for a couple of years. I say homeless, he's homeless by choice. He's doing well. He he knows where the ghosts are in Santa Barbara, and there's some famous ones there, and they only last like 49. I knew this. I goes, hey, I was gonna tell him how. He goes, Mark, they're already gone. I goes, well, I was going to tell you how to get rid of them or how to help them, you know.
Yes. It
But he already knows all that. But here I am talking to about ghosts because of my theory, and
physics.
he
And
already knows it.
And our phase conjugate plasma systems, Therify and now Phi-Ray.com, are famous for triggering lucid dreaming and helping to release ghosts and helping seed germination because they're all based on fractal GUT, golden toe, charge collapse.
Right.
So,
So you can see why they want to keep this quiet. Negentropy versus entropy. By the way, with entropy, you can solve, if you assume entropy, which is a problem, when you assume things, you put yourself in a box. So if you assume entropy, you can derive nearly everything in physics. And I know because I have PhD friends who do that. So when you tell them, and they do that and successfully do that, and I've done similar things based upon Harriman. Here's an idea, a simple example. Harriman says, if you assume a huge vacuum, you can derive a bunch of stuff. That's all you got to do. If you assume a huge vacuum energy, you get a whole bunch of stuff. That's putting constraints, and you're only going to get answers based on those constraints. So all my people that I've been trying to recruit that are entropy believers that can
yeah.
derive everything in physics from the entropy principles. What about their unsolved problems? Why
Yeah.
can't they solve those?
That's the religion of chaos, entropy,
Right.
actually. But the same reason they don't know the origin of negentropy is the reason they don't know the origin of anything centripetal.
So we already have the unsolved problems solved, and the ones that are nonsense, we can point out that are nonsense because there's nonsense out there.
Mm.
So, and that said, I'll let you close. And thanks. Well, you already did, but that's my closing. If you have any final wrap up, I'll mute, and I'll only unmute
No,
if you
no,
have
that was
anything else.
wonderful, Mark. Thank you so much. We
I
are
appreciate.
saying that the happily ever after here actually is the origin of negentropy,
Yeah.
self-organization, which is precisely this chart. And it is a happily ever after. So
And
there.
before this breakthrough, before July 4th, I I wouldn't be arguing neg entropy. I wouldn't be or not. Now I'm on board neg entropy. Well, the proof is long ago. I mean, here's the best one I've ever seen. Poor Nassim, he's invited to CERN and disinvited. But they're asking him this, come on, Nassim, we need some proof. And he goes, right here's your proof. The fact that he can move his fingers. So
which
there you go.
which is to
That's your
say
proof.
that the moment at which your aura becomes implosive, you can steer a tornado. And that's exactly how you lucid dream, steer, and
Yeah.
steer when you die.
Oh,
So
I know. And I've had my friends laugh at me because I'm gonna tell them about steering the weather with my mind.
exactly,
They laugh,
exactly.
they laugh, they laugh. But I love men who stare at goats and cloud busting. Me and my buddies joked about that years ago. And then you find, hey guys, guess what? I'm hearing this might be real. Oh, that's not real. So I'm still in that world, It's okay.
But the shaman who just steered a tornado, you can see his bioplasmic streamers embedding, and he says, I fell in love with the tornado and I felt the pain of the tornado. He's embedding his aura and becoming the centripetal leverage of that tornado, literally. And
Right.
America's tornadoes are angry because they're not
Oh, yeah.
steered.
Yeah. Now, if anybody skeptic wants to test this stuff, like Sadhguru says, it don't work. You come to America, the vibration is just too harsh here.
It is true.
So guess what? I'll share this real brief story. I'm leaving. Me and my buddies used to go out. We took astronomical. We're out all night. Photographs of Hayataki, Hale Bop. I got those on my website. Days, hours, camping trips. Me and my buddies with astronomy equipment, cameras in the 90s. Never any evidence of what we're talking about. They don't believe in UFOs like I do now. I never saw UFOs at all. You want to know why? We're out there drinking and shooting guns and having a hell of a good time. And then when the sun goes down, we're calmed down. We're setting up our telescopes, still sipping some alcohol. They don't come when you're in that state of vibration.
Yeah,
So
the spirit.
never,
Yeah.
never did I see anything. However, when I went with Liz, the CITD 2015 through 2017, a whole new world. And I knew to be careful for all the, I mean, I get there and I have a whole group of four, it might be normal guys, a team of engineers, perfect design team, everything I'm used to, a project manager, a man, a marketing, four guys, and all of a sudden, hey, Mark, you know, I don't even know who they were. It was a great experience, but what I'm telling you is the giant rock, all those people with, they could have brought the military drones to trick us, but I left it all for 3 years and I saw the military drones, I saw alien stuff, I think, and it is incredible. You take any normie out there with, like I used to be, drinking and partying and stuff, you're not going to see the stuff. Your vibration's just too low.
Yeah.
So I
That's
learned that the hard way. 50
that's the
years.
CITD. Mark means contact in the desert. And
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So 50 years of partying, 55. It was 2000, June of 2014. I know the day Liz woke me up. I'll just close with that. I was so arrogant telling her, this is what I do for a living. We make this cheaper. What do your people do? And she came back later with the proton radius solution on the sim, but she didn't know I solved that. I'm like, what? And anyways, you'll see, it's getting better.
so the lady made the difference. That's a good
Oh
halfway.
yeah, yeah. Liz made all the difference. Without Liz, we wouldn't be talking.
So
So
thank you, Liz, too.
yeah,
Yes. Just an epithet here. Our website about steering tornadoes, the plasma dynamics, goldenmean.info/dowsing. And remember, this film is about our project, Golden TOE, Fractal GUT, fractalgut.com. We will see you there. We stay in touch. And there you can see there's a way to get in touch with both of us to have discussions and do questions. And there will be follow-up videos on this. We have so much more to share. But this was the teaser, the intro to get you
yeah,
interested.
right. And we're gonna have some detailed technical papers. We'll go through them carefully too. I mean, so I can do it easily. I mean, I can explain this stuff to homeless people, so don't so don't worry.
There's about 30 technical papers there already. So thank you
Yeah,
very much, everybody.
yeah.
Thank you for
Thanks,
joining us.
man.
Thank you for your patience. Thank you, Mark. It's been a blessing.
Thank you. We'll see
See
you
you soon.
later. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Thanks. Man.
Bye.